You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to Monday. Monday all day long. But y'all, the rain finally moved out and it's Monday. And we like to call that, because you know it's about the food, Meatloaf Monday.
I think I'll try the meatloaf sandwich.
Do you know what that is?
Yes, meatloaf.
What is it? I'm only asking in case I have to describe it later to a doctor.
Look, it's nutritious. It's delicious.
Made out of meat. Add ketchup if you want. I couldn't care less.
Yeah. A meatloaf sandwich sounds really good right now, by the way. Hey, by the way, JP's on the board. Hey, buddy, how are you?
Man, I'm great on this Meatloaf Monday.
Mother's Day weekend this past weekend.
It was.
You did see your mom?
I did.
All right. You see your
I did.
grandmother?
I did.
You. I was speaking to said grandmother because she happens to be my stepmother.
Yeah.
And she told me that your uncle, my brother, made smoked meatloaf. Did you know this?
No, he actually made smoked. Wait. Which uncle? Wait. So uncle.
That was Mick.
Oh, I did not know he made smoked meatloaf.
Smoked meatloaf.
I'm actually kind of upset about that.
I've never had smoked meatloaf.
I've had it once in Nashville, Puckett's in Nashville, but I've not. That's the only time I ever had it.
I am concerned about whether or not you and I are still in the family fold because we've not been given some of this smoked meatloaf.
I'm gonna have to tell my dad to up his game up with that.
Okay, I like
smoked meatloaf.
Hey, by the way, in case y'all are looking, I gotta give props to the JP. So he is the techno whiz here in the studio. He makes the buttons work, and we have a brand new look on our live stream. So JP has got a brand new software that he is piloting today. It's got the ability to do all kinds of new bells and whistles and change the screen around and move things in and move things out and look pretty at the same time. So JP, as long as it keeps working, we're fine.
Hey, fingers crossed. No, I'm just kidding.
But I do got to say this too.
Mm-hmm.
I made the business decision, and it's painful, but I want y'all to bear with me because, you know, this is a growing company and we are constantly being locked out of YouTube, constantly. And why? Because even though all of our bump music has been pre-approved for radio, apparently YouTube has its own standard. It doesn't matter that we got them pre-approved and got them from a source that where they're actually vetted. No, not with YouTube. So you're going to hear new bumps today. Just bear with us. I've been doing it for 4 years. It'll be hard for me too. I'll miss my bump music, but I am tired of YouTube telling the world that we can't be seen anymore. Not going to happen. Not on my watch. All right.
Start at 2:30. So brace yourself. So you got time to wait for it.
Okay. All right. Listen, we got a great show laid on for you today. Coming up at the beginning of the third hour, Congressman Gary Palmer is going to be on. We're going to talk with him about several things, to include the fact that he just had legislation passed that starts repealing parts of the Green New Deal. His bill, our Alabama Congressman Gary Palmer, legislation being passed that he sponsored. So that's very cool. President Trump just signed it. And we'll probably talk to him about some crazy insurrection Democrats too while we're at it. Speaking of which, I got a triple dipper. Hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper, 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. First out the gate, I'm just calling it insurrection. Well, is it? Well, I don't know. It seems like all we heard for a couple of years or more was that somehow or another Americans had tried to overthrow government because they were, you know, rushing the doors. Well, what happens when Democrats do that? Apparently, there's nothing to see here. Don't make eye contact. We're going to talk about what just happened at the ICE detention facility. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. Coming up, number 2, adventures in woke world. All the wokeness is still out there. Now, it's somewhat tamped down. It's not always in charge like it used to be, but don't think it's gone. So, yeah, we'll have some fun with some adventures in woke world. And then number 3, in conjunction with that phone call with Congressman Gary Palmer, we're going to talk about reversing the Green New Deal. Reversing the Green New Deal. I am so overjoyed to be able to say that, because for the last 4 years, I would have a dipper occasionally called the Green New Deal. Now I get to call it reversing the Green New Deal. That's number 3 on the Triple Dipper. All right, let me jump on into my Right Side Way opening monologue, and I'll remind you guys that Stan McDonald, 30-year veteran in the practice of law in North Alabama, partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee. Stan McDonald is your daily sponsor of the Right Side Way monologue, and I'll tell you more about Stan here in just a minute. Okay, so let me just say, as I kick off that, and I mean this when I say it, this past week was one of the worst displays of lawlessness, of self-righteousness, of the abuse of position. It was galling, it was maddening, it was sickening. Have I got your attention? It was 3 Democrats, members of Congress, and 1 Democrat mayor attempting to force their way into an ICE detention facility in Newark, New Jersey. I mean, they were leading a group of rabble-rousing leftist protesters, afraid, I guess, that the MS-13 and Tren de Aragua gangbangers being held in the facility might have been strung up by their toenails. They had to go check it out. Maybe they're in there being waterboarded, or I don't know, just not being given their rightful conjugal visits or something. It was gross. Body cam footage from law enforcement on the scene clearly shows these vaunted and specially titled members of the U.S. House pushing and shoving and cursing and defying law enforcement who were just trying to do their jobs. And when I say pushing and shoving and cursing, well, picture the worst fight you've seen at Walmart Black Friday sales, and there you go. If those had been Republicans or people wearing MAGA hats, well, the left would be calling for blood. Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney be flown in to get the old Jan 6 band back together. You can't interrupt a government proceeding, they said. Everyone knows that, right? But oh boy, they did. So let's name names, shall we? Representatives Bonnie Watson-Coleman, LaMonica McIver, and Rob Menendez, along with Newark Mayor Raz Baraka. So McIver, member of Congress, was especially contemptuous. You'll see her in a video here in a few minutes, using language that would make a drill sergeant blush. Watson-Coleman, well, she happens to be an 80 years old, and she's in the middle of this protest group. By the way, she's got 2 sons who served time for armed robbery. Menendez? Well, Menendez is the son of the recently convicted Senator Bob Gold Bars in My Closet Menendez. You can't make this stuff up. What a rogues gallery. And yet, there they are. Watson-Coleman swears that there's going to be false AI-generated films about her actions because she's innocent, you see. She meant nothing by this. McIver? Well, she swears she was pushed by law enforcement first. Okay, sure. But we've got the receipts, you see. And DHS is saying that arrests may well be coming. Saying specifically, by the way, DHS did, that arrests of those 3 lawless members of Congress is on the table. And it should be. But let's be honest. That's just one example of the fact that Democrats are in complete disarray on an epic scale right now. I mean, gone are the halcyon days of hope and change. There's no grand figure around which the Democrats can rally their base. They have no galvanizing message, no political rhythm, no mandate, all of which, by the way, is self-imposed. But here's where I shift gears. Because having said all that, and having talked about the ignominy of what the Democrats are constantly up to, about the way they are constantly blustering and bloviating and making absolute mayhem out of the halls of Congress, it ought to serve as a warning to Republicans. You heard me. That's right. I'm flipping the script. Democrats are imploding on an epic scale, but Republicans cannot take that as some kind of good news. We cannot allow ourselves to get just lazy because they're crazy. There's a quote from Greek philosopher Aristotles. He says, "We don't rise to the level of our expectations. We fall to the level of our training." Meaning that those who fail to prepare in the offseason fail to perform in the big game. Republicans would do well to remember that. So there's a great political competition for the right side of the aisle right now. There's certainly, bluster and obstruction and filibuster and mayhem, but rhetoric does not connote responsibility, and obstruction does not equate to brinksmanship. The danger here is that the Democrats have got nothing going on well, but Republicans cannot allow laziness to creep in due to a lack of competition. So in the absence of true political opposition, Republicans, they can easily slip off into their echo chambers and just applaud themselves for their own mediocrity. There was no fight, yet they claim a victory. Year after year, session after session, speech after speech, without breaking a political sweat. They can just do enough to get by, write a congratulatory op-ed about themselves, slip off into that decaying place of tepid insolence where political muscles atrophy and political will becomes flaccid. All because they have no real competition, no reason to be what Republicans claim to be in all their campaign commercials. I think the Alabama Democratic Party was the canary in the coal mine for the National Democrat that we're watching just fall apart. Since losing ground in the 2010 wave election, Alabama Democrats have only had one statewide office holder, and that was one-term U.S. Senator Doug Jones. An election, by the way, that in my opinion was marked with an asterisk. Jones himself recently said in an interview that the Alabama Democratic Party is a complete disaster. Here's his full quote. He said, quote, "It's just an unmitigated disaster that has nowhere to go. They can't even get a quorum to hold a meeting. And the reason they can't get a quorum to hold a meeting is because the leadership of the party wants to kind of do all these weird shenanigans." Well, he nailed it. And yeah, there's no real competition there for Alabama Republicans. On the national level, Democrats have cascaded now into this self-imposed chaos. I mean, you've got long-term strategist James Carville and newcomer activist turned party leader David Hogg recently clashing over direction, trading insults and ideas. The two de facto leaders of the left opined conversely that Democrats ought to be replaced or just march on in current fashion. Meanwhile, Senator John Fetterman, who's a Democrat from Pennsylvania, is facing attacks from the left for daring to moderate his positions. And Democrat members of Congress are just bum rushing the gates of ICE detention facilities. Jasmine Crockett, her verbal inanities embarrass her colleagues on a regular basis. Her latest comments, by the way, are that the Dems are probably going to have to run the safest white boy they can find. Member of Congress. Oh, yeah, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the former barista, is now being touted as a viable candidate for the presidency in 2028. But watching the Democrats shoot themselves in the proverbial foot on a near daily basis is like the political version of the Mad Hatter's Tea Party. It's hyperactivity, it's riddles with no answer, it's poise without purpose. And if Republicans squander this moment in time, it will not be because the Democrats had their act together and put up the better fight. It's going to be a loss that is solely borne by the team that had everything to lose. Donald Trump said in a recent interview with NBC News' Meet the Press, he said, and this is his quote, he said, "Being challenged is okay. It keeps you sharp." But the danger here for Republicans is the lack of challenge. The complacency that comes from controlling their own destiny. The absence of challenge, Republicans have two choices then. Get busy winning or just get busy slipping off into mediocrity. There's a book that I love. I've quoted it many times on the show. Author J. Oswald Sanders, he wrote a seminal classic called Spiritual Leadership. It's a book that I've dog-eared, underlined, and reread more than any other next to the Bible. In the 15th chapter of the book, Spiritual Leadership, while talking about the fact that leadership can mean great exertion and long hours, Sanders said something that ought to be printed on bumper stickers, t-shirts, and inspirational posters everywhere. He said that if a person is, quote, not willing to rise early and work late, to expend greater effort in diligent study and faithful work, that person will not change a generation. Fatigue is the price of leadership, he said. Mediocrity is the result of never getting tired. And that, my friends, is not a mantra for what to do only when your competition is at its strongest. That's a formula for success that is driven by your sense of mission, by your time and place of calling, by a moment when it is yours to do. Republicans have to move forward on the field of political battle, whether the opposition is fighting hard or not. Eric Cantona, he was a famed forward for Manchester United Football Club, one of the greatest players to ever take the pitch. His philosophy was the same. He said one time, he said, quote, "I don't play against a particular team. I play against the idea of losing." There's a difference. You see, if you play down to the team on the other side, well, then you play less of the quality you're capable of playing. Republicans must play to win. Even while Democrats are crazy, Republicans cannot become lazy. They must seize the moment. They must play to the idea of victory with an actual game plan. And yeah, Dems might be crazy, but we can't be lazy. We must seize the moment, secure the victory. Anything less is mediocrity. And that's a wrap for the Right Side Way. Well, there you have it. Mediocrity is the price of never getting tired. What a great quote. But what it basically means is you just don't go half. You don't go half. All right. You just don't go half. You go all in. Even when your opponents are down, you still run the plays. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. So that was a new bump.
It was.
I gotta get my head around it, but I don't dislike it.
Well, if there's one later that you do dislike, then feel free to let me know and I will get rid of it.
I won't call you out in front of everybody, JP. Just me and you talking, JP.
You'll be able to tell by his face on live stream. Where he's like, ooh.
All right. Yep. So we are making some changes around here. It's part of the growing business. I had to make the business decision. I said, JP, time to change out some music, man. I'm tired of YouTube having their way with us. So if we're gonna take this show to the next level, we got to quit getting blocked all the time by the platforms that we stream on. So a bunch of y'all stream the show with us. And so that is where we are. By the way, check it out. You can stream the show like audio, video, both right now. Go to rightsidemedia.org or find us on YouTube or find us on X or find us on Facebook. But yeah, we're all over the place streaming live right now, aside from radio. Yeah, I got to tell you about attorney Stan McDonald. So Stan McDonald is indeed a partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee in Huntsville. He's a 30-year veteran in the practice of law. Not only is Stan the kind of guy who can fight for your legal needs, advocate for you quite well, I believe he can, but he's also one of those guys who has truly been in the fray, in the trenches for years on the things that, right side ruffians care about, all the policies and politics. He's definitely one of us. So yeah, attorney Stan McDonald, legally speaking, he has represented his clients in literally thousands of real estate transactions over the years. He knows how to stand up for you in any local, state, or federal court. I like to say if Stan McDonald's on your side, you're going to have no greater friend. Likewise, your adversaries would have no greater foe. So that being said, let me tell you how to reach him. Here's his phone number. Attorney Stan McDonald. The law firm is Wilmer and Lee. He's an America First family man. Here's his phone number, 256-479-3020. That's Stan McDonald, 256-479-3020. Sponsor of the Right Side Way. Tell him you heard about it on Right Side Radio. And oh yeah, no hesitation made. The quality legal service be informed is great. The quality legal service for the lawyers.
It was like a 9.5 right there. That's pretty good.
Okay, I don't want to brag or anything, but that's just starting to come out in my sleep now. All right, new bump taking us out. JP got his groove on. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. there. You are listening to Right Side Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all will talk about this show. Whew, I mean, it goes from like Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back on over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the border from there to what we get to call once again Fort Benning. Fort Benning. That's right. And then, oh, by the way, big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. You know, it's really something. Just this morning, I was actually what I love is when I meet ruffians everywhere. The other night, I'm out for dinner. I meet a ruffian just out of the blue who listens to us live streaming all the time, like daily, in his shop. He's a jeweler, and he sits in the back working on the jewelry pieces and has it on. Just this morning, I'm in court, and I won't say who, but the bottom line is somebody who I was in the courtroom with says, "Hey, by the way, listen to the show." Very cool. I mean, it's like I love running into people like that daily.
That's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. It's an honor too. Text lines are open, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Text it or call it, same number for both. A couple of them I'll get right now. Shane from Lacey Springs heard us talking about, you know, the fact that we've been dealing with YouTube. Love you, YouTube. Anyway, Dan Bongino, says Shane from Lacey Springs. Dan Bongino left YouTube during the COVID era because they were trying to ban him for saying masks don't work. I'd rather watch y'all on Rumble. Love the show. Thank you. Says, love the show, brother. Thank you. Appreciate you, Shane, very much.
And we are on Rumble also.
We are on Rumble.
Yep.
Yeah, we are on Rumble. We're on Rumble, X, Facebook, YouTube, and our website.
Yep. All over the place.
I nailed it. Okay, good. Jeff Rowe from Indiana says, my daughter sent this to me to send to you. Kind of says a lot. It's Ecclesiastes 10:2-3. The heart of the wise inclines to the right, but the heart of the fool to the left. Even as fools walk along the road, they lack sense and show everyone how stupid they are. Oh, that part's not scripture. Okay. Yes, indeed. And I love that verse. And tell her, thank you very much, Jeff. I appreciate it. Very apropos. Gary from Decatur says, I don't think the Democrats are just being dumb, are dumb to be dumb. They're using their safe voting districts filled with the party's rogues gallery of representatives to show their illegal constituents. She's saying how far they will continue to go to get their endorsements and illegal votes. Maybe so. I mean, they may be playing to their base. I don't know. But in a little while, we'll talk about some of what happened in the last couple of days. And I'll be honest with you, it's hard to do what your constituents need when you're in jail. Just saying. And they need to have the book thrown at them. John from Huntsville says, Phil, spectacular monologue. And I don't know about smoked meatloaf, but grilled meatloaf is absolutely delicious. I trust you on that.
I bet any meatloaf is delicious.
I'm going to say yes. He said, also, did you hear the stocks are soaring today because Trump and China came to an agreement on tariff reductions? I did. By the way, JP, so far the bump music is amazing.
Thank you, John.
Whoop, whoop.
We got a vote of approval.
Yeah, give some applause there. Can we have some applause on the new bump music? Thank you very much. JP, retooling the manner and means by which we bring this show to you. So, by the way, that brings up a point. I've got dippers, but we still got news. It's almost like, in fact, I even heard Dana Perino say this morning while I was driving in. She made the comment, last week, every day was like just the same old news. This week, it's like you can't keep up. It's only Monday morning. So many things have happened in the last, I don't know, 8 hours. First of all, on an amazing moment, we just had the last American hostage being held by Hamas in Gaza released. And would you find his last name for me? It's Itan, and I've forgotten his last name, and I hate that, but he was just released. What's his name?
Alexander is his last name.
Itan Alexander. Okay, great. Well, praise God, he has been released. I saw the video where his mother got to speak to him on the phone, and they're going to be reunited here shortly. That's a big deal, and I'm thankful. And Trump made the point. Now we want the rest of them out. And if you can't bring them out alive, we at least want their bodies so that they can have closure and not keep going through this. It's the whole thing is just amazing to me. The other thing we had was it was announced yesterday that the Trump negotiation team has negotiated with China in sufficient fashion for Trump to announce this morning he is able to reduce the 100% tariffs that we have on China down to the baseline. And remember, the baseline is 10%. Everybody gets 10% no matter what. And then after that, you get a measurable increase based upon who you are and what your trade deficit with the U.S. is. Well, the U.S. stocks just are going through the roof right now. Treasury Secretary Bessent said there's substantial progress on the talks of China. It's believed that we actually do have a decent trade deal brewing there with China. And I'll be honest with you, I thought China would be a little later in the game. And we're not done yet. Until they put ink on paper, it's not done. But I will say this, it is further along, and you don't see China denying this either. You don't see China coming out with a different narrative about the result. So right now, the stock market is soaring on the belief that Trump and his tariffs may have actually worked. This is a hoot.
And also today, Trump signed an executive order to bring down the price of prescription drugs drastically.
That's where I was headed next.
Yeah, I saw a meme of today we're going to see leftists come out saying that they're pro high prescription drug prices because they're against Trump so much. It's like how can they deny like this? That's something that they certainly can't deny.
So let's see. Hostages are getting released.
Yep.
Zelensky and Putin also had a meeting, or no, they're scheduled to have a meeting Thursday. That wasn't happening before.
Nope.
And we don't know what'll come of it. I'm not going to try and predict outright success on day one. The fact that they're even getting together, it's like dealing with anything else. Initiating the discussion is the very first part. And so that's happening. And then you've got the trade negotiations. He just announced the United Kingdom, just a few days ago?
Yep, last week.
And we're looking at possibly India very soon behind. China, we're announced, has major progress, and we expect to see ink on a deal sometime in the near future if it holds. And then, other countries are lining up. We have like 130 different countries all lining up to do their own negotiations right now. Every day is a new adventure. And then, of course, the southern border is still secure, and the price of gas is down. And Democrats don't know which way's up.
Democrats are getting thrown in jail for doing insurrections at ICE facilities. Speaking
of which, I hope y'all have seen the video on this. So, you know what? I'm going to go out of order. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to make an audible here. I've been always for 4 years. I have called for audio clips. JP, I'm calling for a video clip. All right. For those of y'all that are live streaming, it'll be up on the screen here momentarily. And for those of y'all that are just audio, you'll hear it and there'll be a bit of a ruckus, and I'll try to narrate as I can. But I want you to see what happens when three knucklehead, just absolute. First of all, you look at it and go, Democrats, is this the best you can do? You've got the son of the convicted Senator Bob Menendez. You've got the 80-year-old grandmother and, oh, by the way, mother of two convicted armed robbers. And then you've got the thug woman who is just like throwing her prodigious weight around, trying to basically have her way with law enforcement, screaming the F word in their faces. By the way, we got to make sure this should be edited for sound on radio, but it should be. It should be.
Well, we got a dump button if it's not.
Well, you got a big red button over there that says, dump. But let's do it. Let's play that right now.
Guyver, I want to go back to some of the footage. We were looking at some, and I want our viewers to see that you are the woman in the red blazer as we show them.
Yes, she is.
The DHS says that, obviously, that there were chaos, that maybe you were trespassing. You can talk about that. But the DHS also says that, in their words, you were body slamming an ICE officer. Is that what we're looking at? Is that what happened?
There she goes, right there.
Absolutely.
Elbow into the back
No,
of the
I
head.
mean, I honestly do not know how to body slam anyone. There's no video that supports me body slamming anyone. As Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman said, we were simply there to do our job. Therefore, oversight visit and what you're watching in a video, and we don't have all of the body cam, and we hope that all of the body cam is released.
Yeah, we do.
It was a very tense situation. It unfortunately did not have to be like that. They created that confrontation. They created that chaos, and then ultimately went to arrest the mayor of the largest city of New Jersey.
Just stop. Just stop. If you're going to lie, at least try to make it a decent lie. I mean, that's like the biggest pablum of lies I've ever heard. That is absolutely just ridiculously tepid. Like, you're standing there next to the broken vase. What did you do, little girl? Did you knock the lamp off or break face off? No, I didn't do it. Yeah, you did. I watched you.
I love the part she goes, I don't even know how to body slam anybody.
I don't know how to body slam
while
anybody.
proceeding to show her bodying into people. Like,
if y'all couldn't see it, I mean, hockey players should be able to check somebody against the boards as good as she did.
And I think she thought, that she was talking about like a WrestleMania body slam. Wow. It's talking about actually slamming her body into other people.
Yeah, we're not doing a stone cold pile drive
No.
into the corner post.
Yeah.
But we are looking at someone who absolutely has zero respect for law enforcement who are doing their job, and she's a member of freaking Congress. And I want to know what congressional leadership is going to do about it. I mean, I'm serious. I want to know, what is congressional leadership going to do about this? Because for 4 years of the first Trump administration, it was all about Russia collusion and everything was bad and impeachments and all, and it was just like this biggest farce. And then January 6th and oh God, insurrection. And then the January 6th commission upends people's lives, drains their bank accounts, denies them due process. And we have hundreds of Americans who spent time in jail. And then you look at this whole thing with 3 sitting members of Congress who have no purpose in being there. Well, we have oversight. We have oversight of these things. That's not how oversight works. Oversight doesn't just show up and demand entree to a prison. That's not how this works. And by the way, any professional, which they are not, any professional would know that what you do is say, we have some concerns and we'd like to come over there and inspect your facilities. And DHS has already said, we would have let that happen. That's not a problem. So we toured the media through here the next day. But no, they didn't want to do that. They wanted a show. They show up with a group of protesters. They show up with the rabble-rouser Newark mayor, who is running for governor, by the way, of New Jersey. And they basically demand entree and they make the scene. And then when the bus filled with detainees is trying to enter, that's a very dangerous time, by the way. You got a prison bus filled with prisoners, and all of a sudden protesters won't get out of the way. When the gates open, they try to bum rush the gates. And next thing you know, you've got a member of Congress elbowing a law enforcement officer in the back of the head and screaming profanities in his ear because she won't go away. Listen. Better take me to a break while I go calm down. Should I have more caffeine? I don't know that I should.
Maybe just watch more video clips of.
Oh, that'll
like
help.
that.
That'll help a lot. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Like making common sense like a superpower. So maybe your superpower is bump music. That's JP. What do you?
Well, I didn't create these, but I did find them.
That one had a true 80s vibe attached to it.
Yeah, it did.
I mean, I was feeling the 80s arena rock on that one.
That was pretty good. I like that one.
I think the Bangles opened for that band. It was. Okay. Hey, several text messages real quick. Tom with all the kids in Huntsville says, I'm reliably informed that no one is above the law. Yes. Thank you. I have heard that. Marshall from Dubai says, Phil, that lady in red who tried to storm the ICE location in New Jersey when she said, quote, this was caused by the Republicans. They put this in motion. He said, really? I didn't see anyone with the Trump administration importing hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of freeloaders for the past 4 years. So the Democrats have already done the fool around part. Now it's time for the find out part. Yep, I would agree. By the way, talk about two-tiered system of justice. Do you remember? It wasn't so long ago. It was Democrat Jamal Bowman. Remember him pulling the fire alarm?
I do.
I mean, the guy was like nothing but blustery rhetoric, all about it. Hey, don't you just? I'll tell you. Pull the fire alarm.
Thought he'd get away with it.
What a chucklehead! Total chucklehead. Well, we're seeing this constantly. Now, listen. You know what is amazing to me is when something happens to a Republican, we get censured. They threaten impeachment. We got all the, the reality that we're seeing constantly with Democrats is that they can do what they do and ain't nobody can question it until they're ready to accuse a Republican of it. And then it's like, well, that's good enough for the goose, good enough for the gander? No, just for the gander. Thank you very much. Townhall.com flat out says no one is above the law. Thank you. That would be Tom with all the kids again. But townhall.com says no one is above the law, but yet Democrats insist. Democrats then demand to be exempt from the consequences of their law breaking. Hypocrisy is not a strong enough word. These people are corrupt. They need to face the music. And I agree. I'm telling you, if congressional leadership does not take them to task, and by the way, DHS, bring charges. I think of the three Democrats. So you had, by the way, if you weren't familiar too, the Newark mayor who was there, Raz Baraka was arrested. He was arrested on the scene because he was trespassing and he refused to leave. And they finally had to put him in cuffs and take him out. So that's the mayor of Newark, Democrat, running for Democrat governor, by the way. But you had the mayor of Newark arrested. You had the three members of Congress who I think know that something is about to happen. And they don't know what to do. And they're trying to spin the story. They're trying to say, like the mayor of Newark, his response to an interview on CNN, because of course it's CNN, was, I didn't do anything wrong. Really? He said, I was in there for over an hour, not a single person, not an officer from ICE, not any of the security guards. Nobody told me to leave that place. And yet we have a video of a Homeland Security agent clearly marked on their vest, telling Baraka to leave and noting that several prior warnings had already been issued. Oh, by the way, he'd been protesting out in front of the gates for the past week. So it wasn't like he was new on the scene. He knew the deal. He was there for the spectacle. And then you got, how about this one? Do I want her first or the other one? I'll do the other one first. What's her name? Representative Bonnie Watson-Coleman. Never trust a hyphenated name, JP.
Never
trust the hyphenated name. Representative Bonnie Watson-Coleman claimed on Saturday that immigration and customs enforcement agents were going to use manufactured body cam footage. It's not going to be real. They're going to use manufactured body cam footage on me. It's not going to be real. It's real. God almighty.
That's so funny to me.
That is so lame. Just please try harder.
That's like an old woman who doesn't know how AI works. It's like, they're going to AI generate a video of me body slam people. That's not how it works. Okay.
Here's an idea. Use AI to find a better excuse.
Yeah.
Dear Grok, please tell me what to do. I don't know what to lie. A lie that actually sounds more convincing would be more like, can Grok do that? I don't know.
Grok can do anything.
Stop it. You sound like you got a crush on Grok. All right. Then there's this one. Of those three Democrats, by the way, the mayor has already been arrested. He's already out on bond. He's doing his thing. He's making his CNN rounds. Representative Bonnie Watson-Coleman is an 80-year-old grandmother whose two sons did time for armed robbery. She's a mess. She's 80 years old. She does not appear to have been the person who was the most egregious in the moment, but she's still a problem. And then you had Menendez. He's a mess, but all he did was run around the outskirts looking like a girl in tight pants. And then you got the real one, LaMonica McIver. I say she needs to be arrested. And then congressional Republicans, you better do something. More on this. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international. And oh, yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 2 on a Meatloaf Monday. Wow. I don't know who took hour number 1 away, but it's already gone. But yeah, hour number 2, Meatloaf Monday. And I'll say this too. It's an interesting time for y'all to be watching the news because listen, think about where we've been over the last 4 years. The level of inactivity was epic. How many times a week did we hear the Biden administration had called a lid on the day? I'd never even heard the term before. We called a lid on the day. What time is it? Well, it's noon 30. Okay. How come? Man needs a nap? What's happening? Well, the president's calling a lid on his day because he has presidential things to attend to. Well, that's called the job. That doesn't mean you call a lid on the day. What that basically was he was no longer capable of making decisions, doing things, or having appearances that at least expired some measure of confidence that he was competent and able to do the job. But with the Trump administration right now, and listen, yeah, so I will call balls and strikes. All right. I promise you, when I see him screw up, I'll say, I don't know why you did that. I am not seeing it right now. And what I am seeing too, though, is an administration that is just wide open, brother. I mean, the throttle is pulled all the way back. They are running and gunning on a daily basis. It's so much so that things that would be news are overridden by things that are bigger news because bigger news is ongoing too. It's like, did you know that Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, just issued an executive order or an order to the military academies? They will stop race-based admissions. That just happened this morning. It's barely even a headline. That should have been the headline for the day. It's not even cracking the top fold, if you will, because we're watching other things like China trade negotiations and release of hostages from Hamas. And I mean, just it's on and on and on. Going back to this thing I've been talking about too, with the 3 members of Congress who don't deserve their office. And listen, I understand that members of Congress are people too. I understand that people make mistakes. I understand that people have passions and cares and concerns, and they put their pants on one leg at a time. I get it. You know what? There is no excuse for this. What happened the last several days? There is zero excuse for this. And I've got a piece here. Which one do I want? I'll tell you what, I'm going to do this one. This comes from the Worcester Police Patrol Officers Union. The police union has had it with this crap. Had it. And I'm going to read you part of their statement. But there's one other member of the elected community who was in that fray who we haven't really seen, but maybe the worst one of all from what we're reading here. And this is a District 5 city councilor in Newark named Itel Hoxhaj or something like that. Anyway, Itel Hoxhaj. The police union says this: such conduct cannot be tolerated or condoned because some protesters threatened our officers' safety and police had to make additional arrests. Of particular concern in this case was one of our elected policymakers, someone who has created this difficult task for the police, and that's the District 5 councilor, Itel Hoxhaj, incited aggression toward police during the incident. This counselor participated in the conduct of the unruly crowd and eventually assaulted Worcester police and federal law enforcement officers on the scene. Her behavior also emboldened others to act in this manner. The conduct of this anti-police activist counselor is deplorable and unacceptable. Regardless of political opinions or views, city officials should never condone the assault of an officer and flat out disregard to the point of violent opposition. The Worcester Police Patrol's Union, Local 911, will not stand silently in the face of such outrageous conduct or allow the safety of our officers to be put at risk by any individual. Any official, particularly a sitting councilor, who acts such a manner is, in the opinions of those of us who ordered to keep the peace during such hostilities, unfit to serve. And her actions were not just egregious, they were physical interference, as she attempted to use her official position several times to interfere with police on the scene. Listen, I hope there is some justice coming. I really do. Because that can't be a thing. That can't be a thing. You cannot have people say, "Don't you know who I am? You better get out of the way, little boy in your uniform. Show me your badge. I don't care." I mean, who does that? And oh, by the way, can I just go ahead and say, what did they think was happening inside the detention facility? Are they really of the belief that there was waterboarding or something going on in there? Are they really of the belief that no one was getting fed? We got to get in there and check and see. The place can hold up to 1,000 detention prisoners, and it only had 119. Not like it's overcrowded, not like it's understaffed, not like they're not getting fed. In fact, I will just tell you from my own experience, because we have an ICE jail here in my community that had a contract for many years, that the standards that ICE is required to go by under federal guidelines are so incredibly stringent that in some ways those guys are probably living a vacation. 3 squares a day, calorie intake has to be accounted for, special meals if they've got problems. They've got to have X amount of outside airspace and time in which to wander have exercise and all that. It's just on and on and on. It's like, oh my gosh. Do they get movie night too with popcorn? What happens? They get cuddles and therapy dogs? What happens? All I know is this. Those folks who did all that, they should pay the price, because you and I would have. You and I, if we had done that stuff, you and I would be in jail right now trying to bond out. If you and I had done this stuff, they would have convened another January 6th commission and loved every second of it and doxed us forever and made sure we could not function in society. And yet they're going to do it and then go on CNN and talk about how, well, DHS started it. I don't care if DHS did start it. You walk away from it. There's that old rule. You get pulled over by a police officer. You don't think you were speeding. You sit there with the light on inside and your hands on the steering wheel where he can see them, and you say, "Yes, sir." That's what you do. Adam from Athens taking in, he says, I'm just waiting for either Kareem or Yellow Dog to attempt to defend these Democrat criminals. I don't think Kareem will. Yellow Dog will. Brian from Decatur says, why does it appear that congressional people can openly break the law, including felonies, and the only time something to be done is it has to be determined by their peers in Congress? Why does not the local law enforcement or federal enforcement of that area make the deciding factor? I always hear what's going to happen to them by their congressional peers. They should not be involved. Yes and no. Two places there. Number one is they are not immediately out of office. They are still subject to the rules of ethics and the rules of decorum that govern the body in which they serve. So yes, they can still be disciplined or admonished by Congress, and they should be. And Congress should not go, well, we're going to let law enforcement handle it. And when law enforcement decides to bond them out and then set them for trial 2 years from now, and congressional leaders that look the other way, no, you deal with it. So I say both. But the other piece of this is, don't think for a second that law enforcement doesn't do something. I will say, even under the Biden administration, Senator Bob Menendez was so, by the way, that was his son. His son was one of the 3 Democrats at the ICE facility. But Senator Bob Menendez is now in jail along with his wife, because he's the guy that found gold bars in his closet. Nuts.
Apple doesn't fall far from the tree, I guess.
Apparently not. Apparently not. JT Lacey Springs says, Trump and tariffs. Trump has shown if you squeeze hard enough, everyone eventually squeals and cries uncle. We're seeing it right now. Jack from Huntsville sends me a meme. He said, it's been difficult at times since tariff times have kicked in, but my philosophy has been, and he's got the hands of the tattoos that say hold fast. I agree. Stay calm and carry on. David from Huntsville says the left are crying Trump can't use price controls to lower prices. Is so rich. And are they now free market capitalists? Not likely. They're just no Trumpers. And then Mark from Tony, Alabama says, Phil, in your opinion, are we living in the generation of Jesus Christ's return since Israel is 77 years old? Maybe. I don't know the time or place. Scripture says I won't know the time or place. I heard my pastor say it, and I do agree, though, that the time and place seems to look a lot like this. But I don't know. All I know is I'm ready, and I hope you are. All right, let's take a break. We'll take the break right now. We'll come right back, and we're going to switch gears. I think it's time for a little adventures in woke world. Y'all stand by. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Man, I'm saying like saving the world one soundbite at a time. You may be saving the world one bump at a time. That was kind of cool.
Appreciate it.
That was. In fact, it caught me off guard. I'm not used to this yet.
Yeah, you're not used to the new bumps.
I know.
Yeah, I understand. I'm not ready. I'm not really used to them either.
Change is hard.
Yeah.
All right, we're back though, and by the way, when we talk about this, that is in part because we are live streaming the show, and so many of y'all actually watch it online. We encourage you check it out. You can see it on YouTube, Rumble, X, Facebook, or on our website, rightsidemedia.org. And by the way, on rightsidemedia.org, let me encourage you to check out the fact that we have a Rightside store. If you want coffee mugs, you want hats, you want t-shirts, you want stickers, you want some of our bin shot glasses, which is a highball glass with the Rightside Media logo engraved in a 308 bullet embedded in the glass. How cool is that? You got to check it out. It's all in the Rightside store at rightsidemedia.org, and it's all there for you. So go check it out. Okay, Dipper number dos. So you know the deal. Every once in a while, I'm getting the show ready. I'm looking around. I find myself thinking, good Lord, how much wokeness can you say? All the wokeness. How much wokeness will there be? I'm saying all the wokeness is like, and next thing you know, I've got a stack. I've got a pile. I've got a wheelbarrow full. I've got buckets. I've got scads. I've got a veritable plethora, a vast cornucopia, a vast charcuterie, if you will, a buffet of wokeness. And that means it's time for another round of adventures in woke world.
Adventures in woke world.
All right, brace yourselves because I got one in a minute. It's going to curl your hair, but I got to do this one first. I hold in my calloused former paratrooper hands an article that I pulled from Woke Spy. Dateline, this is Dateline Friday. Dateline Friday, trans is out at the DOD. Did you hear that? Trans is out at the DOD. Oh, wow. JP. Angels are singing.
Gotta keep you on your toes.
I'm saying. So article says, after winding court battles, actions, and rollbacks, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth will begin kicking out transgender service members from the military next month. So he set June 6th. So we're at 3 weeks. For the next 3 weeks, transgender service members have a right to basically out themselves and self-deport, if you will. They have a right to voluntarily separate. Otherwise, they faced involuntary separation, and that's more involved, and that also could go on your record differently. So we're looking right now, there's like, according to the article I've got here, there's 8,980 active duty and 5,727 reserve troops, all of whom identify as transgender. So what are you looking at there? Total is like roughly 14,500-ish transgenders in the military. It's less than 1% of the force. But here's the thing. The leftist ideology on this just permeated overall. You can drop the screen now. It just totally permeated the force everywhere. You got like non-trans service members that constantly had to take training programs on how to deal with inclusive environments. You got service members being forced to use pronouns for their non-binary colleagues. We got soldiers who were actually being brought up on disciplinary action for not using the right pronoun, like the Navy. The Navy actually had a zero tolerance to harassment policy that said this. It said, quote, intentional misuse of transgender service member pronouns is inappropriate and inconsistent with the Navy's zero tolerance policy on harassment. Y'all, that is gone, and it could not go soon enough. So praise God for that. All right, now I'm going to pull this up. Oh, God, this is going to be hard. How much time I got? I got good time? Like several minutes?
About 3 minutes.
So I pulled a piece off of NBC News. Dateline 3 weeks ago. I had to check. I had to make sure. Is it still out there? Did we get rid of it? No. Lab-grown meat is still out there. Not only that, here's your headline from NBC News. Scientists create the world's largest lab-grown chicken nugget, complete with artificial veins. I'm already having me a moment here. I'm losing my appetite for the evening. Let me read this to you, JP. I hope people can see your. Oh, you're showing the picture of it on the screen. That is so awful.
you gotta give them a visual.
It's exactly what it's. This flappy, flaccid, sloppy looking, slimy piece of white, sticky something laying in a pan. That's just gross. Get that off my screen. That's awful. Scientists have grown a nugget-sized piece of chicken, and all of woke world is so excited. All right, you ready for this? I'm going to read this to you. While labs have been producing lifelike tissues, see, that's awesome, right? Creating lifelike tissues. They're going to grow people one day. You watch. You think this is how the zombie apocalypse starts right here.
I wouldn't be surprised.
While labs have been producing lifelike tissues for more than a decade, previous methods only made small scattered cell balls. Small scattered cell balls. Little chunks of flaccid, flappy stuff in the plate.
And it makes me hungry.
It was a challenge to hold the cell groupings together in a way that more closely mimicked the texture of muscle. And the current generation of lab-grown meats are often tiny pieces clumped together around an edible scaffolding. What in God's name are they to say to me? Tiny pieces clumped together around an edible scaffolding. A team of researchers in Japan have reached new lengths growing a single square piece of chicken 2.7 inches wide by 0.7 inches thick with a new lab tool. JP, they actually have their own bioreactor. This is how, I'm telling you, this is how the zombie apocalypse starts.
Yeah, isn't this the one where it was like cancer cells where it just kept growing and growing and growing and growing?
Like it's perpetual.
Until it keeps going and you can't stop it.
And next thing you know, you got the blob consuming whole city blocks, just sweeping through, scarfing up cars and people and your neighbor's pet cat, all the stuff, getting scarfed up by the blob. Why is this okay?
It's not.
Thank you. I mean, okay, so I will tell you this. The bioethicists out there, yeah, there's a lot of mixed feelings. But just so you know, apparently we can say we moved on from scattered cell balls to tiny pieces of clumped together around edible scaffolding. Lab-grown meat. Yes, I have more after the break. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back. plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right, just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all have talked about this show. Whew. I mean, it goes like from Huntsville back over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. I mean, down to that lovely little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the border from there to what we now once again get to call Fort Benning. Fort Benning. And then, oh, yeah, big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. And that's just the radio. That's just the radio footprint. Y'all, this show, streaming online with all you guys, we got people all over the nation, all over the world, really, tuning in, and we appreciate you more than you could possibly know. So I am, I got to, by the way, shameless plug. Just remember, please, Rightside Media is the parent company of Rightside Radio. Rightside Radio is just one of our productions, but Rightside Media also has multiple podcasts, and the latest edition of Emily Jones' Controversial Mom podcast came out last night. And very soon you're going to have another edition of, once again, the Out of Right Field podcast with JP. Up. Oh, it came out today?
Came out today.
I need to pay attention.
This morning.
So we have two podcasts that are already out for you right this very second that are brand spanking new. Emily Jones from Moms for Liberty, Controversial Mom, it's up. And Out of Right Field, JP, it's up. What was your topic today?
Talking about this new commission on college sports with Saban at the co-chair of.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff that I hope they can accomplish and change with NIL.
Okay. Oh, wow. That's a timely topic.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. All right. Let me jump back in. I think I need to do more justice because not enough of y'all are grossed out by this, apparently. Either that or you're not texting because you're too grossed out to text. But I'd like to know, is there anybody out there? Here's my question for you. If what I was about to read to you, in fact, if JP, if you can show it on the screen and make it not quite as big as before, because it had me like a little thumbnail in the corner. We're working new software here, but
which picture?
The lab grown meat.
This is the one with the chicken, the flimsy little chicken.
Big flappy,
yeah,
white, pasty looking thing in the pan. Yeah. So here it is. Lab grown meat. Scientists have now grown the largest piece of. It's not chicken, by the way. They're just calling it that. Everything tastes like chicken. This is not that. They're saying it's a nugget-sized piece of chicken using a new method to deliver nutrients and oxygen to artificial tissues. It's a breakthrough, what they call cultured meat. Now, here's the phrase. Previous methods only made small scattered cell balls, less than a millimeter thick. It was a challenge to hold the cell groupings together, it says, in a way that more closely mimicked the texture of muscles. And the current generation of lab-grown meats are often tiny pieces clumped together around an edible scaffolding. I just feel like that's just levels.
You told me that doesn't look appetizing on the screen there.
Oh, there it is. Look, a little cube of slime. I'm pretty sure somebody hawked that up.
Yeah.
Right before the picture was taken. Quick, get a picture of this. Call it lab-grown meat. Yes, that's nothing but phlegm on a plate is what that is. And this is how the zombie apocalypse. You got a sound effect for this? Because this is how the zombie apocalypse starts, in my opinion. Lab-grown meat. Oh! The screaming goats. The panicins.
That's what's inside of me when I see that.
Somebody in our listening audience probably just jumped out of their chair.
Yeah, probably almost started a wreck on the interstate.
All right. By the way, just so you know, in order to create said lab-grown chicken nugget, scientists developed a bioreactor that mimicked a circulatory system using 50 hollow fibers acting like veins to distribute nutrients and oxygen to the meat, keeping the cells alive and guiding them to grow in specified directions. No, I'm just saying, listen, when I say this is how the zombie apocalypse starts, I am not kidding. But I got one more story on this, just so you know, in the Adventures in Woke World category, part of the adventure in Woke World is dealing with woke. Well, just so you know, even in Michigan, even a place where Gretchen Whitmer is governor, there are people that are like, how about no? Well, one state representative, a guy named Jerry Nyer, who's a farmer by trade, is demanding that they pass legislation. So he's got a bill, Michigan House Bill 4076. I pulled this off of upnorthlive.com. Says people have a right to know whether their meat comes from the farm or comes from the petri dish, and ultimately, that's what this level of legislation calls for. In other words, full disclosure, it's transparency legislation. Can you imagine? You go to the restaurant and you order, I don't know, chicken nuggets for the grandkids. Don't you want to know if they were grown in a petri dish? I would think so. You go down to, I don't know, the local diner and you ask for some chicken salad. Don't you want to know if it was grown in a petri dish? You ask for a steak or something grilled. Don't you want to know if it was created in a bioreactor? But yeah, they're working on passing this bill. And there are two chicken products that have already been, alleged chicken products that have already been approved for use in the United States. And this guy says, and he's right, the last thing you want is to find out something you're eating from a restaurant or buying off the shelf has not been marked, and those who find this to be an unethical violation of all things natural and normal would want to know that, please, it was made known and no one can get around it. Oh, ugh. Like, ugh. I think I threw up a little bit in my mouth. Just saying.
You got some listeners who are unhappy because you're making them feel sick. So there you go.
Oh, geez. Yeah, let me get a few of those texts, then I'll come back to the next story I've got because this next story is going to make you mad. Clint from Tony says, Phil, the lab-grown food brings the movie Soylent Green to mind. Yes.
You know, we actually just got a call when I made a mention that on the air.
Soylent Green?
They should market it as Soylent Green.
Soylent Green is people. By the way, there was a product called Soylent Green. And I'm thinking, who thought that was a good idea?
I've never even heard of the movie Soylent Green.
Okay. Well, it's one of those old classics. I think it was Charlton Heston. I could be wrong. And in the future, food is scarce. The government begins distributing a food called Soylent Green, which is a high nutrition, substitute, and people are eating it, and it's keeping them alive until one day someone discovers Soylent Green is being made from people.
Yeah, this sounds just like that, actually.
Tammy from Huntsville says, disgusting. Why are we making fake meat? I'm not eating that. I agree. Is there a shortage of meat? Is there a problem out there? Do we not have enough cows and chickens? I'm pretty sure they're still breeding. I haven't seen anything wiping out the population.
Well, it's not morally right to eat actual meat, Phil. Don't you know that?
Well, see, I have this thing called a Bible.
Yeah, I do too.
JT Lacey Springs says lab meat. It's called mold, fungi, and pond scum. That is, yes, thank you very much. You forgot phlegm, but yes. Brian from Decatur says, thank you for making me throw up a little in my mouth. Alex Mathen says, edible scaffolding, just help us, Lord. And then she says, guiding them to grow, just stop it right now. And then John C. from Madison, hearkening back to the earlier story, says, do you think the trans people in the military might renounce the trans lifestyle to stay in the military? Probably not. If they were willing to go that far, that they would go to an environment that is least conducive to their chosen lifestyle, then I doubt it. Story for you, straight off of Daily Wire, Dateline last Thursday. Change the subject because that's enough of lab-grown meat for one day, maybe 1 week, maybe my lifetime. Says you probably missed it, but a couple of years ago, history was made in New Hampshire. Yes, they appointed a woman who broke the glass ceiling. She's the first Black woman in New Hampshire to serve as a federal magistrate judge. Okay, wonderful. I'm so glad for her. One lawyer said, I don't think anyone in the room is surprised you're making history when she was sworn in. By all accounts, Talisha St. Mark. Talisha St. See, don't trust the hyphenated name.
Never.
Says we don't have to guess about the questions anymore about where she stands because she recently decided that Nashua City Hall, that it was okay for them to ban the Appeal to Heaven flag. And yet it was also okay for them to fly the pride flag. So the flag that was flown at Bunker Hill, the flag that was commissioned by George Washington for the U.S. Navy, the flag that has an appeal to heaven with a pine tree on it, has now been banned at Nashua City Hall. But it's okay for them to fly the pride flag. Now, I will say this. Nashua has a unique please everybody kind of thing where they have it called the citizens flagpole. It's an extra flagpole from which citizens can petition to have their flag flown, except that they reserve the right to say yay or nay. So they banned the appeal to heaven flag. They flew the pride flag, and people are like, what is happening right now? But then you got other cities around the nation, like the city of Boise. The state recently passed a law requiring that in Idaho, only official government flags can be flown at government buildings. Boise passed their own resolution saying the pride flag is indeed an official flag of the city. Oh, good. Boise, Idaho. And then you've got others. I mean, around the nation, you can find cities that are flying the pride flag as if somehow or another that qualifies for people to know that City Hall is on top of things. I got news. That is some woke virtue signaling. And it appears to me that if you want to really make waves, you'd fly a flag that has deep meaning for our history and governance. But the pride flag's not that. It's not. Anyway, when we come back from this break, I'll tell you one more story, and this one's based out of Alabama. Adventures in Woke World continues, and it's got libraries involved. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. We are back. Bill Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Oh, that one, I don't know, man. I don't know about that new bump.
You don't like that one?
That felt like a Dale Jackson bump.
It does. You know that? Yeah, it does.
It does.
I think, yeah, it sounds a lot like his bump every segment. Yeah.
With that being said, consider that one as the potential for changing out.
Yeah, that one's on the way out.
Okay. We're just like, we have like a sample platter here. We're just taking, we're having a tasting. We're doing a tasting right now.
Taste test, yeah.
It's a taste test of all of our new bumps. So for those who aren't familiar, JP has retooled all of our online streaming and our capabilities because we were constantly getting just like body slammed by YouTube, which is one of our platforms. We're on all kinds of platforms. YouTube, of course, being the most persnickety. YouTube, I'm calling you out. Yes, I know I am. But the truth is, we have pre-approved bumps that we had procured through a service you're allowed to get a subscription to that tells you these are used for radio, except apparently YouTube, not so much. And we are constantly getting blocked. So yeah, JP, great job. All the software is streaming a different platform altogether. He's got more capabilities right now to work with. At the same time, he also went through and began to remove some of the offensive bumps.
Well, we actually added an approval message. Aunt's sister said the bumps are much better. Said the old ones were awful.
What?
That's what Aunt's sister says.
Wow. Aunt's sister. Okay. All right. I got one more story for you. By the way, don't forget that coming up at the beginning of the next hour, we'll have U.S. Congressman Gary Palmer calling in, Alabama Congressman Gary Palmer calling in, and that'll be great. We're going to talk to him about the insurrectionist Democrats who stormed the ICE facility, and then also get a bead from him on what happened with that new bill that he sponsored that helps to repeal the Green New Steel. But let me do one last story here. I actually got a couple. I'm going to tell you what. I'm going to tell you about this one real quick. So you remember Adventures in Woke World is where we are right now. You remember in 2022 when Ron DeSantis was working to get Disney in line, and that Disney was just having none of it, and Disney was all about the so-called quote unquote "don't say gay" bill, which didn't say that anywhere in the bill, by the way. It just became the mantra. He's got the don't say gay bill. It didn't do anything about banning people from being homosexual. Not a bit. What it said is, quit trying to sexualize our children. Why is that controversial? Disney was all in it. Disney was going just like neck deep. They were making themselves, it was like Disney suddenly became an elected official to set policy. It was a private entity setting public policy, and it was really bad. And all the hand wringing was, and then even Disney properties held moments of silence for the don't say gay bill. I mean, it was just obnoxious. Well, guess where Disney is building a new park right now? That would be Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates, a place where you can go to jail for being gay. So what it seems like is...
Well, not even, I mean, they could kill you for being gay.
Executed, yeah, absolutely. It's a capital offense, potentially. So the interesting dynamic here is, apparently Disney really didn't care that deeply. They just had a woke constituency in the U.S. they were catering to. Meanwhile, I mean, Abu Dhabi, they got to play too. They need the Mickey Mouse, they need to have they ride the teacup rides. I mean, hey, but no buts, just, Last story I've got came from right here in Alabama. Good friend of mine, actually two good friends of mine, are on the state library board, and they've been wearing it out, y'all, wearing it out. Whoever figured that libraries would be controversial never could have predicted this. But the Public Library Service Board voted this past Thursday, according to 1819 News, to give states' libraries a definition of what is known as sexually explicit material. In other words, just in case you can't figure it out, local libraries who don't have a clue, just in case you're struggling with whether the strange images of people doing things without clothes on in the children's section is appropriate or not, just in case you need some clarification, sure, we'll help you with that and get it to you in writing, because they're literally being requested to do that. But the state library board determined that they are not going to fund Fairhope Library because Fairhope can't seem to get their act together. Fairhope is a holdout. Fairhope is bucking the new state law that says do not put those things in the kids section. And John Wall, chairman of the Republican Party, who happens to also be the chairman of the library board, He said it's simple. If libraries are worried about defunding, there's a very simple solution. It's in your hands. It's not us who are defunding you. It's your choice to intentionally disobey state code. It's the only thing that causes defunding. And I find this thing to be amazingly inappropriate that they will continue to fight to keep these books in the kids section. You don't have an excuse. And if you were to ask them, would you read these to your kids at home? They would tell you, I'm sorry, you're not allowed to bring that up in a public setting. That's not appropriate. Well, then why is it in the kids section? That's right here in Alabama, by the way. That's right here in Red State, Alabama. Don't think for a second this is just stuff that's out there. Adventures in Woke World is right around here. All right, let me jump on some text messages coming up at the top of the hour. By the way, we'll have Congressman Gary Palmer on the show.
Real quick, we have a really good Facebook comment.
Yeah, what you got?
This one's from David Edwards. He said, Colonel and JP, God has already made the perfect bioreactors. They are called animals. I myself will not consume lab-grown meat.
Good comment. And yes, I agree. Oh, and I see you put it up on the screen.
Yep.
You can do that. JP.
I know. It's amazing.
That's actually pretty cool. And it is pouring down rain right here in the studio
it's
again.
Raining cats and dogs.
John from Huntsville, by the way, says 1 point deduction from JP's grade for that Dale Jackson sound alike bump music.
You know what's funny? When you said that, I immediately knew which one you were talking about because it's the same one every segment. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Jeremy from Madison says use some contemporary Christian bumps on YouTube. Probably ban those too. Yeah, they probably would. Probably would. Aunt Sister from Huntsville is the one who said that the bumps are much better now and the old ones were awful. Huh. I don't know. Paul from Decatur says Heston and Edward G. Robinson. Yep, that's right. That was it. Soylent Green. Another good movie is 1984's Black and White. Another one is 1984 Black and White. Yes, I get it. You're right. Handyman from Caddo, Alabama says stock tip boycotts of shares of shares of ketchup. Lots will be used on lab grown meat. Oh, I see what he's saying. Stock tip is buy lots of. I see it now. Buy lots of ketchup. I didn't know what he was saying to me. That voice text is not working. Yeah, exactly. Jeff from Athens says fake meat doesn't have flatulence. It won't kill the atmosphere. Okay, well, there's that. All right, coming up next, Congressman Gary Palmer. Y'all stay tuned. We'll talk with him about what's going on in D.C. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
Broadcasting live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And, oh, yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 3 on a Meatloaf Monday. Yeah, because a lot of times it's about the food. So, yeah, Meatloaf Monday, hour 3. We are going to the phones here. I'm proud to bring in somebody who's been a friend of this show for quite a while, Congressman Gary Palmer. He represents Alabama's 6th congressional district, and he has been long in the era of in the area of conservative policy, as he founded the Alabama Policy Institute that you hear about on this show quite often, and for which I was also on staff for a period of time. But Congressman Palmer now serves ably in Congress, and he's on the phone. Congressman, how you doing?
Good, Phil. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for making time.
Well, I'm glad to be on. Glad to see some sunshine. That kind of wondered what that bright thing was in the sky.
It is pouring down rain here at the studio in Gadsden, so I'm glad it's clear where you are. But hey, listen, Congressman, I want to run down 2 threads with you, at least 2. The first, though, I covered earlier in the show. We had these 3 members of Congress from the Democrat Party in New Jersey that are now being accused, and I've seen the video, it's pretty legit, of actually interfering with and harassing and even manhandling law enforcement that were doing their jobs at an ICE detention facility. What do you know about this, and are they going to face repercussions, in your opinion?
Well, I don't know a whole lot about it. But from what little I've seen, there's one member actually laid hands on one of the DHS officers there. And I think that's a problem. That's a federal issue, not a local issue. So I think you'd have to ask Pam Bondi or Christy Noem or Tom Homan what the consequences for that might be. But the interesting thing about this, Phil, is that the Democrat Party's become the party for the criminal class.
Yeah,
I mean these aren't people that they put in jail because they came over here to get a job and maybe try to help out their families. These are people who committed crimes. They're here illegally, but they committed crimes, some of them violent crimes. And now you've got 3 Democrat members of Congress trying to break into a jail to let them out. It reminds me of when I was a kid watching the Westerns when they put the bad guy in jail and his cohorts would tie a rope to the bars of the window and jerk it out and get him out. I mean, it's the same thing. They're the party of jailbreak now. And then you had these guys that went down to El Salvador, and it's just amazing.
Well, and I look at the things that happen here, like, Jamal Bowman pulling the fire alarm. I mean, if this had been Republicans, Congressman, I feel like they would be bringing, Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger back to stand up the Jan 6 commission again and get the whole band back together. But they are constantly allowing their own members to just do these things, and yet the rest of the world is supposed to lump it. And I hope there will be repercussions. I'm not looking for anybody to have their lives ruined or whatever else, but especially the one individual, Congresswoman McIver, she's on video putting her elbow in the back of the head of a DHS and then shoving him and then screaming profanities like a drill sergeant wouldn't use. It was not only unseemly and unprofessional, it was violent, and it needs to be dealt with. And that's my hope. Well,
like I say, that's going to be the Department of Justice, maybe Homeland Security, because those are their people. And it's just, they've lost their minds, and they get out and they lie about everything. They're out lying to people that they're going to lose their Social Security. They lied all throughout the campaign. that if Trump got elected, people would lose their Social Security, their Medicare, and nobody's lost anything. They want to keep illegals on Medicaid. They want working age adults with no dependents to live off the government at our expense, and in doing so, deny people who legitimately should be getting Medicaid or SNAP benefits, food stamps, but they can't get them because these people are there on a waiting list because we've got all these people on these programs and that ought to be out working.
Well, the Democrat Party, and this, I guess, will be the last piece, is I don't want to lose the opportunity to talk about a bill you just passed, but the Democrat Party right now seems like it's struggling for messaging, struggling for leadership, struggling for any sense of cohesiveness. And granted, they still hold enough of a presence in the House to where it can obstruct the Republicans if we don't get all of our people on board. But I got to say, if we don't get our agenda done, it's going to be totally on us, because right now they are not like a high bar of competition.
No, but still, 60-something million people or 70-something million people voted for Kamala Harris.
That's true.
And some people might say that's because so many people just didn't like. But still, you just have to question somebody's judgment when you look at the direction the country's gone and the things that we've allowed to happen, and then you see what you just brought up about them trying to break these criminals out of jail in New Jersey. It is insanity, honestly. And I think the country's waking up, especially young people and minorities. They're waking up that they've been used. And I just pray to God that we'll get through all of this and do the things that need to be done for the good of the country. And people look back on this Congress and think that we did something worthy to be remembered.
Well, I agree with that, and I hope so. Well, listen, one thing you did, which it sparked my imagination, because for the last 4 years on this radio show, I've talked about what I call the Green New Steel, and the amount of money being thrown at the agenda of climate change and radical efforts to curb the existential crisis of climate change, and you just passed a bill that deals specifically with the Biden administration's efforts to change all of our appliances. And Trump just signed it into law a few days ago. So tell us about that real quick.
Well, they put out a regulation banning natural gas fired tankless hot water heaters.
Yeah.
And they'd also try to ban gas range tops and just they're everything they do is anti-fossil fuel, and they put that regulation out on Christmas Eve night. I guess they thought nobody'd be paying attention. We saw it, introduced a resolution to repeal that, and it passed the House. Actually had 11 Democrats vote with us on it, and got it through the Senate, and President Trump signed it Friday afternoon.
It's a good bill, and it came at the perfect time. And I like the fact that now that we've got executive orders dealing with this, but now we've got an actual act of Congress, which has been signed into law by the president. So it's official. We're not going to lose our gas stoves, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And he signed a couple other bills too that these folks, we passed a bill on reversing the EV mandate.
Yeah.
And when they put out these executive orders like Biden was doing, the Office of Management Budget puts out an impact statement, and they have to give you an impact statement on how it will affect the budget. And I started reading them back earlier in the year, back in January, and they'd all say the same thing in terms of budgetary impact. It was de minimis, de minimis, de minimis. But when we got to the EV mandate, it said de minimis, but then it said that it would save 300 million gallons of gasoline over the time period that the executive order covered. Well, our highway trust fund, federal highway trust fund, is funded by 18.5 cent per gallon tax on gasoline.
Yeah.
So they basically said that we're going to eliminate $30-something billion in federal highway taxes. That's not de minimis.
No.
So we were able to get that repealed, and I think 55 Democrats voted for that one.
Did they really? Well,
they're not all crazy. Well, maybe I went too far with that statement.
Well, I mean, the things in law now, and I'm glad. And I think it was right around the time that they were talking about this proposal to ban gas, stoves and all that. That there was a video or an image of Kamala Harris in her own kitchen with a gas stove, and you look at it and go, "Come on."
Yeah. Well, maybe she didn't know it was gas. I don't get the impression that she does a lot of home cooked meals, but I don't know.
Well, do you see the green agenda being? I mean, I do. I see it being pushed back, but is there more legislation to come? I'm so glad for the things you did and for the EV mandate being repealed. And then how do we deal with California, and what do we do with our energy sector? What else do you see coming in that regard?
Well, there's more bills coming. They've already been filed. I filed some. I filed a couple in the last few weeks. But also, I chair the subcommittee on the Energy and Commerce Committee, the subcommittee on Oversight and Investigations, and we're looking into that $20 billion that got shoved out in the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Yes.
For the Biden administration, they shoved out money so fast that even the Biden official says it's like throwing gold bars off the Titanic.
Yeah.
And 8 organizations got that money, Phil. One of them was Stacey Abrams' group. In the 3 months before they got the grant from the federal government, their revenue was $100. They got $2 billion. There was another one that their revenue for 2023 was $550,000 for the whole year. They got $7 billion. So I've had our legal team send letters to all 8 of those organizations demanding that they hand over all of their communications, emails, text messages, any communication with the Biden administration. We want to know how they got the money, what was the grant process, and what have they done with the money. And they've done what we knew they'd do as a document dump. They sent us about 70,000 pages, but we're going to go through this and we're going to stay on it. I don't know how much of it we can claw back, but we're going to find out what happened here.
Outstanding. Well, it needs to, because accountability and transparency have to go hand in hand. Once we know it's there, we have to have the accountability to go with it to make a difference. But Congressman, I gotta leave it there unless you got something to add real quick.
No, we just got our work cut out for us. We got a lot to do on this reconciliation package, and we're not where we need to be on that yet, Phil. We'll talk about that later.
All right, sir. Well, I appreciate your time and thank you much. Safe driving.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
Bye.
Well, listen, we're taking a break right now, but I'll just be honest with you. You can't repeal this stuff fast enough. And it's amazing how much last minute money was going out the door and last minute executive orders were being signed by the auto pen. And I'm just glad to see they're repealing the stuff and then seeking to try and repatriate some of those funds back into the coffers. It's amazing. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Man, making common sense like a superpower. That was a groovy bump. It's new bump day, by the way.
New bump day.
New bump day.
It's like hump day, new bump day.
Welcome to new bump day. It's going to be new bump week. So yeah, we got quite a bunch of bump stock to work through. Get it? Bump stock? Can't do bump stock. Yeah. Hey, a couple more things on the green new steel real quick. I'll lay some stuff on there for you. So I called this segment reversing the green new steel. You heard that there's legislation. That was Gary Palmer on a minute ago, U.S. Representative Gary Palmer from the Birmingham area. He's a Republican, hails out of Hoover, actually, is where he's from. And he just had a bill that was his bill that dealt with the whole thing with gas heaters and, versus electric heat. And, the idea that you can't have gas, anything in your house and no gas appliances. And that has now been basically turned off, if you will. The gas has been turned back on. How about that? With his legislation, which Trump signed into law just the other day. How about this one? Fox News has a piece that came out just about 3 weeks ago. A $5 billion green energy project that had been touted by the Biden administration and the Democrats was rushed and relied on faulty science? No. Come on. Say it ain't so. Fox News says the Empire Wind project was being developed by an energy company called Equinor. It was going to see construction of 147 ocean wind turbines off the coast of New York and New Jersey. A $5 billion project. Oh, by the way, funded with government dollars largely. Come on. The problem with the green new steel was it can't stand up on its own. So anyway, basically the Empire Wind project is being shut down. It's being halted. It was bad science. It was insensitive habitats. It was destroying spawning grounds. It was basically doing everything the left says they won't do. It's like, at this point, you wonder, what do they stand for? Because it depends on what moment they're in. I love this one. This one's important. One of my favorite episodes of Last Man Standing with Tim Allen was him and his buddy finding out that a guy had a big stash of black market light bulbs. Black market light bulbs. Yeah, the good kind. The kind we're not allowed to buy anymore. Did you know in January of this year, I've got to pull this piece from Rico Light. It's a website out of the UK, but they were talking about Trump. Do you know that Trump signed an executive order right after he took office, removing the regulations on light bulbs, allowing us to go back to real light bulbs?
I actually don't recall that. No.
I did not either.
I didn't even know we weren't on normal light bulbs either.
It says the inclusion of light bulbs has taken some lighting industry executives as hinting at possible reprieves for the incandescent light. You mean we're allowed to have incandescent light again? I hate those new, sterile looking freakish bulbs that when you turn them on, you're not sure what you've got. And then they have, the tendency they just like suddenly they're gone one day and then they cost $17 to replace a bulb.
Yeah.
But anyway, at a rally in Fayetteville, North Carolina back in 2019, Trump said, I look better under incandescent light than these crazy lights that are beaming down. And sure enough, he decided to go ahead and do away with it. Bottom line is your old bulbs are new again. And that's nothing but good news. What else in the green new steel? Oh yeah, electric school buses. Now, Kamala Harris loves electric school buses. They're very important. She loves electric school buses. Goodness. Anyway, story that came out last Thursday. Headline, Trump throws the electric school bus transition into chaos. Well, of course he did. All right, we're coming back. We'll talk about EV mandates and the electric school bus chaos. And then we'll wrap it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. Last half hour of a Meatloaf Monday on a new bump day coming up. Hey, all you right side ruffians out there, you are listening to Right Side Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio, solid conservative, just plain right, just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. Whew, I mean, it goes from like Huntsville back over to Chattanooga, from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden, all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the border from there to what we now call Fort Benning. Once again, Fort Benning. Oh, by the way, big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. And that's just the radio footprint. Then there's the online, which is like everywhere. Just go to anywhere you are in the whole wide world. Go on the World Wide Web. Go to rightsidemedia.org. You can find all the connectivities to live stream the show every single day. I got several text messages. You got something over there, a comment? Who do you
We got David Edwards on the Facebook live stream says, great show. I'm having meatloaf.
But you know what? We just found out, JP and I are actually related. JP and I just found out that a member of our family makes a smoked meatloaf.
Yeah, I'm going to have to tell my dad to get on that smoked meatloaf.
I'm going to have to complain that you and I are finding out about it after the fact.
I know, right? It's ridiculous.
There's something about that just smacks of, it's like family favoritism or something going on. I was in this section, and I'll finish this up. By the way, you're getting kudos on the bumps.
Am I?
Roughly Ann from Huntsville, and I don't know which one it was now, said that around, what time was that? Oh, that was the top of the hour.
Yeah, I think
her favorite bump.
The last bump of the 3 o'clock hour, I think that was. And then John from Huntsville thinks that bump was the best one so far.
The last one?
Yeah.
That was a real song, by the way. I could tell. That was She's a Little Runaway by, is that Bon Jovi?
I think so. I think a lot of these are intended to sound like real songs, but it's not the real song. I guarantee. I promise you.
Oh. By the original artists.
The original artists made that one, yeah. John Bovey.
Yeah, John Bovey. And the original artists.
Yeah.
Live and in person. Ronco for $19.99. You too can have the disc that all your friends will be amazed at. Mike from Florence says the daylight LED light bulbs I do like, however. Even if the bulb lasts a long time, you sometimes get one with a single LED going bad and flickering. Yes, I've had that happen. He said, to me, that leaves the bulb useless, and I do better in the dark. I know, causing dogs to have seizures and everything. He said, also, I always wondered how much was actually taken into consideration with heat output. That incandescent bulb could have been enough to keep from turning the space heater on. Point taken. Might be the real reason for chicken and egg shortages and high prices, and they were freezing to death and stuff. Wow. If we had just gotten real bulbs. Just saying. You know, he may be onto something there.
I think he is onto something. I didn't even think about that.
I did not either, but I think it's possibly true. Headline from a Substack that I pulled. Great news, it said. Trump throws the electric school bus transition into chaos. Well, what he's basically pointing out here is that Trump said, we're not doing electric school buses unless you can prove they're reliable. And he's also pausing all federal funds to subsidize them. That's the problem, y'all. When you've got, in fact, I've got another article. Where is that? There's an article I pulled from New York Post, or anyway, it was Reuters. Here, I'll grab this one right here. They're basically saying, Trump's cutting money. What are we going to do? And so that's the point. So the Trump administration, this is a piece on Reuters that came out last week. President Donald Trump's administration on Friday, a week or so ago, last Friday, proposed cutting billions of dollars in federal funding for projects including renewable energy. And then they basically go on to say, if we don't have subsidies, what are we going to do? Here's an idea. How about you just go, like, I don't know, into the private sector and build the better mousetrap? And if you're not there yet, then this is not your day. We shouldn't be propping up industry that can't sustain itself. That's not what that's the government picking the winners and losers. The government is supposed to set the foundation or the conditions during which the private sector can thrive and then get out of the way. That's what's supposed to happen. In capitalism, the better mousetrap is built and people rush to it. And so I'll give you my analogy once again, and feel free to then plagiarize it all you want to, because plagiarism is the highest form of flattery, and I get that. So what is, you can look at the cell phone, the smartphones that we all carry in our hands every single day. That so for like way more than a phone now. It's an actual device. It's your alarm clock. It's camera. It's your email. It's all your stuff. That started off an idea that was not perfected yet, and then one day someone decided we could have a phone. If you had a giant bag phone and you put it in your car, but you had to carry it inside with you, but you first had to unscrew the antenna that was mounted to the outside of your windshield. And then if you wanted to really have them, you could use it, but only in certain cities where they actually had a network set up. And then you had limited minutes, and it was very expensive. And then at some points came up with a version of the phone that could actually sort of fit in your pocket, sort of like a brick, but you can carry a brick in your pocket if you really try. And so the phone got smaller and it got more portable, and it was kind of clunky, but you still had fixed minutes, and you had to buy a plan, and you didn't turn it on until you needed it because you didn't want it to waste minutes. And then all of a sudden one day, size, and you could fold it in half and put it in your pocket. And the flip phone was born. Crazy. How cool is that? A phone small enough to actually carry in your pocket. And you still got to pay for minutes, and don't use up all your data. And by the way, if you're calling long distance, it's still going to count. And then one day you realized, wait, now long distance is free. Why would I use a phone at home to call grandma? I can use this, and it doesn't cost me anything. And then next thing you know, you begin to memorize the places where you drive where suddenly your signal goes out, because your coverage has gaps. But over time, the coverage began to expand. And then one day someone decided, hey, I can send letters. Let me text somebody. But you had to use one button for 3 letters. You know what I'm saying? A, B, 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 whatever you got. And you get your message out. And then they invented the BlackBerry. And that was cool because you could type on it and send messages. Wow. It's all kind of black and chromatic. And then one day someone came up with a smartphone. And now can you imagine being without it? And what you watch there is the evolution of the private sector building the better mousetrap. And then somebody else would build a better mousetrap. And then somebody else would build a better mousetrap. And you didn't see government propping it up. You saw government setting the foundations for the world in which private sector could succeed. And it did. And it revolutionized the world. And how many of you actually have a phone hanging on your kitchen wall like we did growing up? Very few, I would imagine. All that to say, not so much for green energy. Green energy has always believed it needs to be propped up. It can't sustain itself. It's not fully viable yet. So we need government dollars to get it in there now, because it's really important that we have it now. So they created the spun narrative we call the Green New Steel. And the Green New Steel made this the existential crisis of our lifetime. And suddenly, you had things that were being thrust upon us way ahead of their time, like, electric vehicle mandates. We don't have charging infrastructure yet. It doesn't matter. You got to have these. But we're not sure we want that. I've got range anxiety. Will it charge up? Will I be able to get to my destination, to stop asking questions? This is important for the world. If they had done that with cell phones, we would have been forced to carry around a big honking bag phone and hardly ever use it. And that's the way they did with electric vehicles, electric school buses, electric everything, trying to kill your gas range in your house, trying to drain the energy sector of anything oil and gas, killing off coal-fired plants, determined that we were going to move to alternative sources of energy, never mind that they weren't as viable, never mind that they couldn't produce in bad weather, never mind that they were more susceptible to destruction. Never mind, they were actually really hard on the environment. Never mind, they weren't proven. And so suddenly, we had the government deciding that it knew better than the private sector. And where are we now? Trump budget slashes renewable energy and farms and EPA. Trump proposes a $15 billion cut to renewable energies carbon captures. This is on Reuters, Dateline May 2nd. Cancels $6 billion for EV chargers. Why not? It's unclear how Congress will make the cuts to funds already in U.S. law. This basically the green new steel is going away. I'm excited. For 4 years on this show, I coined the phrase green new steel 4 years ago, and I have been talking about it ad nauseum for 4 years. And now I finally get to talk about what this dipper is, the reversing of the green new steel. And y'all, that's a whole new day. And I'm going to tell you right now, we dodged a bullet, man. Because if we had been forced to keep going down that ridiculous road where agendas that make no sense are subsidized by government to try and force them upon us to pretend they make sense, then there's no telling where we'd be. We're back, baby. We are so back. All of the above, that's what I say. All of the above. If it works, make it work in the private sector. And people will buy it. They will. That's the way the market forces work. But if there's no demand, but lots of supply, then you get inflation. Then you get stagflation. Then you get the Biden economy. And that's what we had. And it is time for us to be back. All right, we're going to take a break right there. We'll come right back from the break. Last break of the day on Meatloaf Monday, New Bump Day. Meatloaf Monday, New Bump Day. Good job on the show, man. Looks good. All of it. I like it. New systems, new bumps. We're still in business. We'll be right back. Wow. We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Man, that was a bump.
That was an adequate bump.
I'm ready to start the show over again now. Take me back to hour number 1. I'll do 3 more hours. Why not? That was good stuff, man.
Appreciate it.
I got a quick few texts, then I'll go straight to the phones. John from Huntsville says the grades are in. He says Phil and Gary Palmer both get an A+ for their equally awesome performances, which means today's winner is JP. I would imagine this to be true. Is JP with an A+ because 99% of his bump music was amazing and his surprise sound effects made up for any major point deductions he received. Congratulations. Tell your Braves to get off that Six Flags roller coaster they're on. Nice. Well played, sir.
Will do. I'll tell him. I'll get him on the phone right now.
Shag Nasty, the atheist, checking in. Shag Nasty says, private industry led to 100 years of gasoline engines. Wow, what innovation. Actually, no. They led to 100 years of gasoline engines that improved over time to the point that their efficiency is beyond anything we could have imagined 100 years ago. Unregulated private industry, he says, always leads to rent-seeking behavior. Rent-seeking behavior. Did he mean to say rent? Anyway. All right. Let me go to the phones. Jeff Rowe from Indiana. Hey, buddy. How are you?
Not very good. No.
Oh, no.
I'm just now getting to Tennessee going north.
Oh, Lord. You got a pound of driving still left to do.
Yeah. Had 3 trailers in the yard when I got there, and all 3 of them broke down. Imagine that.
Wow. No kidding.
Yeah.
Well,
and to remind everybody, this is going to be Safety Blitz week, so they're looking at tires and the driver's logs. So if you're out there and driving a truck, just beware.
Okay, and if you want to label the place where we can tell people to watch out, just let me know.
All the chicken coops.
All the chicken coops. Well, hey man, speaking of
be
chicken, would you eat some of that fake lab-grown chicken I was talking about earlier?
Well, I've ate some fish today. I don't know if it was lab grown or not, but it was pretty darn good.
You still eating that truck stop fish? We warned you about truck stop fish, man.
I know.
That and pickled eggs.
The plastic chickens, I don't know. Other chickens are too cheap right now for me to start eating any fake chicken meat.
I just look at it and think, why? Why do they need this? And I remember reading a story that part of it was because they were concerned about the fact that there are animals that are suffering because that's just only been that way as long as the world has been around.
Yeah, and if fake chicken meat don't lay eggs either, so unless they got a way to make a fake egg, so eggs would go through the roof if we have all fake chicken meat.
Next thing you know, now that you said that, we're going to have omelets made with things grown in dishes. That's just not good.
Maybe it'll be the ultimate, like the ultimate burger or whatever, it'd be vegan chicken. Oh my gosh. Wouldn't that be rough?
I tried that one time just to see how it was, and I was not impressed. Not at all.
I'm not even curious to find out what it does taste like, but Trump's killing me here, man.
Why? What's up?
He's doing away with all these mandates on electric vehicles. My Voltagra is going to fall on face before it even gets started.
There we were about to buy stock in Voltagra, and you've just gone ahead and just got shot down. Had the rug jerked out from underneath you.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about range anxiety if you got a gasoline engine now. Gosh, dang it! I was hoping to get retired out of this truck.
Gas station on every corner. I mean, golly bomb. The infrastructure's only been there for 100 years, but it's and you know what? There may be a day when electric vehicles are the thing. I think we'll have hydrogen vehicles before we have electric vehicles being the thing, to be honest. But
yeah, because can you just like I say, imagine how much infrastructure has to be built and how much power it has to be generated just to charge a battery up when hydrogen is, you can convert water to hydrogen pretty easy, and don't take that much electricity to do it. So.
No, not at all. And I think the whole thing was ridiculous. It was a massive waste of it was a spendorama too. We spent more money on that Green New Steel scam, with the Inflation Reduction Act and Biden forming the civilian, what do they call them, the civilian core of existential threat people. I don't know what they were, but it was basically like the Peace Corps for energy.
but the thing about it is, everything's global warming, global warming. Nobody's yet said anything about how we're going to stop global warming. We're just going to slow it down a little bit, So it's coming if what they say is scientifically true, but the world's been changing ever since the world was basically a big giant gas ball, forming in the Earth. So it's always going to change. It's one way or the other.
Well, it's not, and the idea that global warming is only caused by man. I mean, every volcano that goes off causes a problem. And by the way, I would say global warming only cause. I'm not bought into the idea that global warming was a thing. By the way, did you notice that it was global cooling, and then it was global warming, then it was acid rain, and then it was it's always a threat. They finally just called it climate change, so it'll encompass everything.
Don't forget the hole in the ozone either, man. We
Oh,
gotta
that's
get rid
right.
of all these foam cups and stuff, too.
Of course, that was one of my. I love that movie, The Book of Eli, and that was a hole in the ozone. It was a thing.
Yeah, and now they've changed the Freon again too, so now it's really expensive again, I believe. So.
God, just no.
And it's made out of propane, I think. So it's explosive. It's flammable now.
Oh,
way to go! Talk about it. Talk about inventions that progress. It sounds like they're going regressive to me.
Well, it's what happens when the government decides to run the private sector. Hey, brother, I got about 30 seconds to get out here, so you be safe on the road, all right?
You have a good one, Phil.
You too,
Make
man.
it home tonight sometime.
Oh, you'll get there. Hang on. See you. By the way, Joe from Indiana, not to be confused with Jeff, but Joe from Indiana checks in and says, by the way, that meatloaf, he says, wrap that meatloaf with bacon before you smoke it.
Oh,
holy cow. I'm done in right now.
Yeah, I had a I told you I had a smoked meatloaf and Puckett's in Nashville. And
I've eaten there.
There was a tornado warning as we were eating, and I had to scarf it down. I was like, oh. And we had to hide in the basement of the restaurant for about 20 minutes.
Just take your plate with you?
Nah, I scarfed it down, and everybody was freaking out and like, oh my gosh! And I was like, just eating away the smoked meat. It was great. Yeah.
Did they give y'all like a refund or anything?
Nope. I mean, I assume the other people went back up and finished eating, but I was already done.
All right, what a crazy day. Good job, man, on the new bumps and the new streaming platform. That's great stuff. All right, y'all, do not forget. I mean it when I say it. I'm very serious. There are more of us than there are of them. Oh, by the way, God is still very much on his throne. Y'all stay in the fight. We'll see you tomorrow.